prophetic clock begins. Daniel received the 70 weeks prophecy while Israel sat in exile, wondering if God had forgotten his covenant. Heaven answered not with comfort alone, but with a timeline, a divine construction plan for Israel's future. God assigned 490 years to accomplish 6 specific purposes, all tied to Israel's restoration and Messiah's mission. The first 69 weeks, 483 years, were a countdown to the arrival of Messiah the Prince. This wasn't symbolic. It was precise, measurable, and anchored to a decree to rebuild Jerusalem. When that decree went out, the prophetic clock began, ticking toward the exact generation Jesus would appear. History confirms it. The 69 weeks landed right on time, pointing directly to the ministry of Christ. But after the 69th week, something unexpected happened. The clock stopped. Not because God changed his mind, but because Israel rejected her king. The prophetic timeline paused, leaving one final week, 7 years, still unfulfilled. The great pause, the age we live in. This pause is the church age, the mystery age Paul said was hidden from ages and generations. It is the era where salvation goes to the nations, not through a kingdom, but through a global body. The pause explains why Israel was scattered, why the gospel spread, and why the world looks the way it does. It also explains why the prophetic clock has not moved for nearly 2,000 years. God is gathering a people from every tribe and tongue before he turns his attention back to Israel. The pause is not a delay, it is a harvest window. And that window is closing. The signs Jesus gave, deception, lawlessness, global shaking, are rising like storm clouds. The world is aligning for the final 7 years, even though the clock has not restarted. We are living in the shadow of the 70th week, not the week itself. The trigger. What starts the final 7 years? The 70th week begins with a covenant confirmed by a coming ruler, the prince that shall come. This is not merely a peace treaty, it is a global alignment moment. It will involve Israel, nations, and a leader who rises with deceptive brilliance. When this covenant is confirmed, the prophetic clock will strike again. That moment marks the beginning of the final 7-year cycle. The world is not in that cycle yet, but the infrastructure is being built. Digital systems, global alliances, and religious unity movements are preparing the ground. The world is being conditioned for a leader who promises peace but brings destruction. Israel is increasingly isolated, pressured, and central to global politics. Everything is moving toward the moment the covenant is signed. The first half, the rise of the false peace. The first 3.5 years of the 70th week will look like stability. The world will breathe a sigh of relief as conflict seems to ease. Israel will rebuild, reorganize, and experience a temporary sense of security. The coming ruler will appear as a man of solutions, unity, and diplomacy. But beneath the surface, deception will be tightening like a snare. Global systems will centralize, economic, political, and religious. Technology will merge with identity and commerce. The world will celebrate what God calls a trap. The church, if still present, will face increasing hostility. The midpoint of the week will expose the true nature of the covenant. The midpoint, the great reveal. At the halfway mark, the ruler will break the covenant. He will enter a holy place and declare himself above all that is called God. This is the abomination of desolation Jesus warned about. Israel will realize the deception and flee. The world will shift from false peace to open tyranny. This moment divides the week into 2 distinct halves. The first half is deception, the second half is devastation. The midpoint is the hinge of end-time prophecy. Everything accelerates after this moment. The final 3.5 years will be unlike anything the world has ever seen. The final half, the time of trouble. The last 3.5 years are called the Great Tribulation, not because God delights in judgment, but because evil reaches its full expression. The world system will demand allegiance. Economic control will tighten through global mechanisms. Persecution will rise against all who refuse the system. Israel will be hunted, but preserved by God. The nations will rage, but heaven will not be silent. Prophetic judgments will shake the earth, exposing the fragility of human power. The world will divide between loyalty to the beast and loyalty to the Lamb. The final years will reveal the true nature of every heart. The return of the King, the end of the week. The 70th week ends with the visible return of Jesus Christ, not as a suffering servant, but as a conquering king. He will destroy the deceiver with the breath of his mouth. He will rescue Israel and judge the nations. The kingdoms of this world will become the kingdom of our Lord. The prophetic clock will strike its final moment. The 490-year plan will be complete. Sin will be restrained, righteousness established, and vision sealed. The King will reign from Jerusalem, fulfilling every promise. And the world will finally see what Daniel saw, the Ancient of Days giving the kingdom to the Son of Man. Thank you for watching this teaching with me today. If this message strengthened you, I invite you to stay connected with the channel. Your like, your share, and your comment help this word reach others who need it. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and tapping the bell. It lets you know when the next teaching is released. I appreciate you being part of this journey as we search the scriptures together.